Good evening, students. Welcome to the part 4 for Microsoft Excel 2016. In our previous session, we have seen how we can apply the advanced filtering, how we can create the group, and how we can create a subtotal. So in the advanced filtering, we have seen that there are four types by which we can do the filtering part. So the first one was by search. We can enter a search item when we apply this filter, and in the search field we will type the text on which we want to filter, and it will automatically select those values that we wanted. Then the second one was we have searched based on text. That means there were advanced text filters like contains, not contains, equal to, equal, not equal, something like that. So by we can use any of these text filter based on which we can filter our data. So whatever the term we will once we select this kind of filter, then it a quick filter bar, or you can say a filter drop down, would appear. Inside that, it will ask us to enter that particular value that we want to be used in this filter. And once we will click on this OK button, then that filter would be applied and we will get the filtered value. Then we have numerical or number, advanced number filtering, in which it was the same thing. There would be number of filters, not this contain. It would be like less than. Because in case of numbers we will get less than or greater than or between. So these would be the different filters that we will get, and we can select any of these. And the same thing, once we choose the filter, then a quick filtered box dialog box will open, and then we will provide the desired values, that is desired numbers in there. And once we click on this OK, our data would be filtered out. Then we have the fourth one, that is advanced date filter. It is also the same like number and text. We will enter, we will first select the criteria that we want to apply, and then once we select that, then this dialog box will appear. We will enter the dates and all, and once we click on the OK, our data would be filtered out. So this is how you can use advanced filtering to filter out your data. Then we have seen that how we can create the group. So the purpose of the group is to help us when we have a larger sheet. That means in our Excel sheet we have multiple columns or kind of number of columns that are like that is containing some irrelevant as well, which is not required at that time. So for that purpose we can use this group functionality. For this we have to go to the data, and then there would be an option of group. So before using this group command, first we have to select the columns or the rows that we want to group together. Once we select them, then we will click on this group command, and those columns will be grouped into a single unit, and we will get a minus sign on top of them, which indicates that it is displaying the details. That means the option that we will get once we click on this minus, then it would be turned up into a plus sign. That means which is representing kind of hide. That means your details are hidden, and once you click on this plus, then you will easily get all those hidden columns. So that means it will display all those columns that have been hidden. So by this way we can easily see the required columns that we want to see. So we can manage our data in group and we can show and hide details for the same. Then we have this creating subtotals. So before applying this function, we have to sort our data based on that column on which we want to apply this subtotal. So the purpose of this subtotal is when you sort your data and you apply this subtotal on that column. So whenever there would be a value change, let's say we have this table or you can check. We have seen one example yesterday. Let me open that also. So we have seen in this example that once here are the values seen. That means after rejected we are getting hired, and after hired we have this in progress. So if you want to apply that subtotal thing over here, what we have to do is we will go to the data, and there is this subtotal option. We will go to this subtotal, and we want to do it on the basis of status. We want that after each change in the status, we want to do that subtotal. So first we have to select that particular column, that on the basis of which we want to do this, perform this. Then we will select the functions that we want to apply. Let's say I want to apply this count function. So, and then I'll select that that particular subtotal should appear in which column. So let's say we want to show it in a status. So we will select this, and once we click on this OK, so you can get it is performing two operations. What are those two? This is the first one, that is it is doing your subtotal on each value change. So you can check there is only one rejected, one hired, and two in progress. So we are getting the rejected count as 1, hired count 1, in progress count 2. While in the ground count, that is the total number of rows, we have 4. So this is the first thing, and it is also performing a group for us. That means it is grouping our data as well. So you can check whether this grouping is working or not. What we have to do is just simply click on this minus sign. So you can check that the first row has been hidden. So we are getting just the count values. So this helps us. Now you can see we don't need to go into the details that what are the different values of something. If you want only that how many candidates were rejected, how many were hired, or how many are in progress. So this is how you can do that. It is kind of the fastest way by which you can get your summary report, and this will help us to perform all these operations and easily analyze your data. So this was the thing that we have learned yesterday. Let's see what are our topics that we are going to cover today. So today we are going to cover about pivot tables and pivoting data. So these two topics are also the advanced one, but yes, these are kind of important that can easily help you out to create your analysis or the statistics on your data. So before starting, let's understand what are the pivot tables and why we use them. So pivot tables help to make worksheet more manageable by summarizing the data. So similarly, like we are using the subtotal thing, so it also helps us to summarize our data. But the difference you can see that in the sort thing, in the subtotal thing, we have to parse our data, and it can be applied on certain columns only. So we can't make more analysis or more summarization that we can easily make with the help of pivot table. It also helps us to manipulate the data in different ways. So we can easily manage our data with the help of pivot table. For example, let's say we have this data in which we have these salesperson. They belong to this particular region. These are their account numbers, and these are the amount that they have ordered. Okay, and these are the summary for the month. Let's say now you want to check that how much total sale was made by each salesperson, like this Albert, this is Brennan, Davis, Doom. So you want to perform these kind of operations. So for that you can use this pivot table, and you can easily get those summary in a small shape. So this helps you to easily manage your data. Now on this you can see that Albert had made this much amount of sale, while Brennan made this much amount of sale, Davis had made this is sale, this is the wholesale of your Davis and all. While in a subtotals, what we have to do is we have to first sort this Excel sheet, and then we would be able to get it. Again, in that case also so you have to perform multiple operations in that case. While in this case, if your sheet is not sorted, that doesn't matter. You can directly go to the pivot table and you can easily select the columns that you want to be appeared. Clear? So let's see how we can create the pivot table in our Excel sheet. So for starting, what we have to do is, first we will select the table or the cell including the column headers to that we want to include in the pivot table. Okay. Then from the insert tab, we will click on pivot command. So basically what we have to do is, let's close this one. We don't need this one. We will work on this also. So first what we have to do is, we will go to the insert. Then basically this is the sheet on which we want to apply. So we will click on this pivot table. Now over here you can see this is asking for our table range. So we are in this sheet. The name of the sheet is orders. You can easily see that the name of this sheet is order, and this is its table range. That is, it is starting from column A and ending at the column K. If you don't want to include column J and K, so you can simply go over here and you can change the data to J. So that means now the column K won't be included in our data. Let's say you don't want this one also, so let's keep it till I only. We will use only this one. Now it will ask us that whether you want to use the existing worksheet or you want to use your new worksheet. This is annexed. That means when we are creating the pivot table, then that dialog box will appear and we have to choose the setting. So this is the thing, this is the setting thing that we are trying. So we have selected that we want these columns only and all these rows, and now we want to be we want this table to be inserted in a new worksheet. Once you press the OK button, so you can check now our table or this sheet is created, and we are getting the pivot table fields on the right side. You can check you are getting all those pivot fields in over here. So you can see that we didn't included those two columns, that is quantity and the discount, and that's why we are not getting those particular columns over here. Clear? Now what we have to do is, a blank pivot table that has been created, and that field list will appear on a new worksheet. So you can see that those fields are appearing on the right side while the pivot table was appearing on the left side. Now after creating that pivot table, we will decide that which fields we want to add, and each field is simply a column header. That you can see that those over here on the right side, we are getting all the column headers names. Okay, so we can select those columns that we want and from the source data. In the pivot table field is, check the box for each field to add. Now the field that you want to be included in your summary sheet, so you can include only those columns. Let's say I want customer name to be included, I want their estate to be included, and I want the sales that they had made. So now you can check that this pivot table has been created, in which we are getting this first we are getting the customer name, then we are getting their estate and the sales they had made. Okay, now then the selected fields will be added to one of the four areas below. We have seen that those areas already added. Now the pivot table will calculate and summarize the selected fields. So it has already created and that summarization has been done. So you can check that over here we are getting this summarization. Let's say I want only the states and the sales. I don't want to include the customer. So you can check that we are getting all the sales that has been made in a state. So we are getting that total of the sale that has been made in the each state, and at the bottom we are getting the grand total. So this is the kind of summarization that can be easily done with the help of this pivot table. And in the subtotals, you have to go over there and then select the column, perform the certain operations. While over here, you have to just, let's say I want to select based on customer name, I want to perform the sales. So I can easily get. So this is how they have made their sales. So basically out of the, over here we have 100 rows in our order, and we have 50 customers who have made some orders which is of this price, and the grand total of that is this. Clear? So this is how you can create a pivot table in Excel sheet. Now let's see how we can manage our data, or how we can pivot our data basically. So pivot is something like you have to pick, you have to make shuffling and all, so that you can easily do. Now, once the pivot table can quickly pivot or reorganize your data. So basically, you want to shuffle, you want to make use different columns, different rows, so that can easily be done with the help of this pivot table. So it helps us to examine the worksheet in several ways. So we have seen that first we have selected the customer name, and then we have selected the state, and then sales. Then again we have changed only the customers and sales. So this is how you can simply examine your worksheet in several ways. Pivoting data helps you in answering different questions, and even experiment with the data to discover new trends and patterns. So basically it means like over here, let's suppose I don't want to include this, I just want to include the order date and the sale. So based on this, you can easily get that in year 2014 the sale was this, in 2015 the sale was this, while in 16 the sale goes down, and in the 17 the sales goes down again. So by this, we are getting a certain trend. That means the sale was highest in 2015, but after that it got decreasing. So that could be because of some their poor product quality or whatever the thing could be. And also you can see that over here we are getting a plus sign. So based on that, you can see that in quarter two the sale was created this month. If you go to this, so you will get the month wise details. So you can see how easily for someone to check the quarterly analysis, the yearly analysis. You can check that we are quarter wise analysis and the year wise analysis. Even you can check that for month as well, that in quarter three only in August month there was an order, while in the year 2015 we have order in September only. So this is the kind of different summarizations you can easily create. So let's close this one first. Okay. This one also. So you can check that they have already created this quarter in. I don't want that. I want total number of sale based on their, let's say, statement. Okay. So this is how you can check. Now to check those trends and all, how we can add the columns. As of now, you can see we are getting just the row labels. That what are the row labels we have, and we are getting that sum of sales. Now, if you want that there should be some column as well that should represent our data. So what we have to do is we have to drag a field from the field list into the columns area. The pivot table will include multiple columns. That means you can add multiple columns as per your requirement. Let's say I want to check on the state wise, or let's say I want it to be on customer name, but I want to check that the customers belongs to which state. So let's drag it to this column area. So now you can check that my pivot table is displaying my data with state wise, and at the end you will get the grand total of all these steps, while at the last you will get the total of the state. So you can check that this is the basically in the rows we are getting the customers sum, that means their order value, total of their order value, and while in the columns and we are getting the total of each state, the total sales that has been made in the each state we are getting in the column, and at the end we are getting the total of that particular orders, that is the total amount of order that has been added. If you want those, so you can check we are getting the rows in a customer name. Let's say you don't want the customer name, or you want some other thing. Let's say I want product IDs to be treated as well while keeping the sales only. So you can see that these are the product IDs that has been ordered by the different customers, and these are your columns. And also you are getting this column label, so that means you can select which column you want to display. That, let's say I want to check only for Texas, Washington, or let's say Pennsylvania. I'll select only these column and I'll apply OK. So you can check. I can easily filter out my data based on the state as well. And now I'll get the sum of the sales of those states. So you can see how it's easy for you to manage all those data, and how it's easy to summarize our data. So this is how you can do your pivoting of data. And let's say if you want to change your row or column that I have already shown you, sorry for that. So what we have to do is we have to simply drag the field to remove out of its current area, or can also uncheck the appropriate box in the field list. And then we can drag the new field to the desired area, and that pivot table will adjust a pivot to show the new data. So like we have already seen that we have changed the rows from customer name to the product ID, and then it has displayed us our data. Let's say you don't want product ID to be included. So I don't want the product ID in the row. I want to show the city as rows and the states to be the column. So I have selected only three states. That is for displaying this one. Let's select all those states back again, so you can check. This is how it is working. Now we are getting a city as rows, while the columns were states. So you can add those columns. It's basically totally up to you. You want to add the customer name as well, you can add those as well. So now you can check, there would be two columns. So first we are getting all those states, then below that we have this customer name. So you can easily get those customer belongs to which area or something. And let's say over here I don't want the city to be included, I want the product name that they have ordered as a whole. So we can easily see that okay, these are the products which has been ordered by these particular customers that belongs to this particular state. So this is how you can easily manage your data. You can make any kind of summary that you want. You can what you have to do is just go for the pivot table, then drag and drop your columns from here, whether you want them to be a column or whether you want them to be the rows. So you can just drag and drop, and you can play with your pivot table, or you can simply summarize your data in different ways. So that's all for today's session. So today we have learned how we can create a pivot table in Excel. So for that, what we have to do is we have to go to the Insert tab, and in the Insert tab we will go to the pivot table. Then after selecting this pivot table, there would be a pop-up that will ask us to select for the settings. That means the columns of the sheet that we want. That means the data that we want to include while creating the pivot table. And then it will ask whether we want to create a new spreadsheet or we want to use the existing one. So it's up to you. If you select the new spreadsheet, then the same workbook, a new spreadsheet would be created, and then over there you can make settings for your pivot table. On the left side you will get your pivot table, while on the right side it will ask you to perform your settings. So first you will get the list of fields. From that you can select the fields that you want to include in your, there you will get the column area, and you will get over here your rows. So from this field list you can check or uncheck those columns that you want to be included in your pivot table. So those columns that you will check will be included over here, and that summary would be represented. Okay, and in the column sections you can simply drag your field from here to there, and that particular field would be treated as the column in your pivot table. And then if you want the rows in your pivot table, that would be certain specific column. So for that also you can drag the column from here to this row section, and that particular column would be treated as a row, as rows in your pivot table. and then after that you can perform your kind of pivoting on your data. So you can drag and drop the different columns. You can play with your data to for different kind of summarizations, different trends that you want to include or you want to check or you want to make analysis on those trends. So you can easily do that with the help of this pivoting table. That's all for today's session, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this session. If you have any kind of doubts or queries or anything related to the topics that we are covering up, you can simply write us to our Learn Forward app. That and your feedback and your suggestion are always welcome. That will help us to present better content for you guys or the content that you want to learn. Thank you. That's all for today. Thank you again.